各位觀眾大家好，歡迎收睇26分鐘見證實錄精華回顧。世界衛生組織喺2021年10月6號首次公布新冠長期症狀，亦都被稱作長新冠嘅官方定義。根據定義如果患者喺感染新冠病毒之後3個月依然伴有多個嘅感染症狀咧，就被定為患有長新冠。呢個全新嘅病症引發咗全球性嘅關注，但係由於仲係喺研究初期好難預計有幾多人受到長新冠症候群嘅困擾。而喺 Omicron 爆發之前，有早期嘅研究就表明10%到25%嘅感染者可能會出現某程度嘅長新冠症狀。又居住喺卑詩省嘅居民喺疫情嘅爆發初期就出現多個新冠感染症狀，直到現時依然每一日同長新冠後遺症對抗。到底佢嘅經歷係點樣嘅呢？現時嘅醫療系統又係點樣對呢一個全新嘅問題進行研究？又會點樣為患者提供診斷呢？
I can't keep my head up. I can't sit up straight without feeling like I'm going to fall over. I have no energy. And I can't hold a conversation. I can't understand anything.
The number of cases with persistent symptoms after 3 months after infection that have come to us has been 4,000 since the beginning of our clinic network.
I used to be a very happy, positive, go-lucky, social butterfly before getting sick. And over the past 2 years, I found myself getting more and more anxious and depressed because there are no answers that are concrete.
Mental health symptoms that we see coexist with physical symptoms as well. So it's hard to separate out a silo of mental health issues from the physical issues because they often occur together.
現年43歲嘅 Jonah McGarver 喺2020年3月出現感染新冠病毒嘅症狀。過去嘅佢開朗健談，佢形容自己係一個工作狂，每日工作16至18個小時。但係呢一場大病令佢嘅生活完全改變。
I got sick. I know the date exactly. It was March 8th, and I'll never forget that date because that was the first date I felt that something was wrong, and I called my employer and told him I was sick and felt I had a cold. And because of the ongoing issues that were starting to arise in the spring of 2020 with COVID, we decided not to have me come to work. And over a period of a couple of days, the cold that I had experienced became so severe to the point where I couldn't even get out of my own bed.
一向健康嘅 Jonah 病情卻喺極短時間之內惡化，劇烈嘅咳嗽、胸痛、失聲等症狀將呢一個工作狂擊倒。
Next 2 weeks, there was many times when I wondered if I was going to wake up the next day because I was in so much agony. My chest hurt so much. I was having the most difficult time in just breathing slowly while lying down. Never mind trying to stand up or function, go to the bathroom, take a shower, eat some food, pet the cat. I couldn't do those.
原本以為只係患上流感嘅 Jonah 表示，呢一次係佢所經歷嘅最痛苦同最嚴重嘅一次病痛。佢決定去見醫生。佢估計自己可能感染新冠肺炎，但係當時嘅醫生並唔相信 Jonah 描述嘅症狀，並未引起重視。
He told me that he thought it was lockdown anxiety, basically telling me that I was depressed and anxious over the ongoing situation globally with COVID and because of the lockdown that had just happened. But it was documented that I was sick before the lockdown even occurred. So it was very hard for me at that time to come to terms with what I was going through physically because I was watching my health fail and not being believed by my doctors.
Jonah 身心每日都飽受病痛煎熬， 雖然當時醫院係唯一可以提供 PCR 核酸檢測嘅地方，但係佢就冇選擇去醫院。佢形容自己當時內心極度忐忑，佢恐怕如果真係確診新冠肺炎，病情又一直惡化嘅話，就再無法見到太太同親友。之後佢嘅身體狀況持續欠佳，所以佢決定尋求另一位醫生。而呢一次就帶俾佢一絲希望。
I ended up getting another doctor for a second opinion, and she was convinced that I had what became known as long COVID. She said she had a few other patients that were in a similar position as her, as me, and there's the brain fog. And she said that she would love to take me on, but she can't as a new patient because she's full. Her practice is full.
由於當時治療以及診斷長期新冠後遺症嘅診所並未普及，只有極少醫生接收好似 Jonah 咁樣嘅患者，但係患者人數就令到醫生難以負荷。現時距離佢患病整整2年過去，喺經歷過18個月、3次嘗試，最終 Jonah 被治療及研究長期新冠後遺症診所所接納。但係佢嘅不適感至今仍然每日伴隨住佢。艱難嘅求醫經歷令到 Jonah 衍生出想加入專門為長期新冠患者提供交流同資源嘅網絡平台，令佢哋有機會分享自己嘅故事。佢最終喺2020年底加入咗 Long COVID Canada 加拿大長新冠組織，成為咗聯合始創人及主席，為全國各地同佢有相同經歷嘅人提供幫助。與此同時，佢亦都了解到求醫困難係佢哋共同經歷嘅首要難題。
I know many people within our community that even though they've been diagnosed with long COVID, just to get referrals to see specialists on lungs, heart, brain, they could be waiting 2-3 years for these. So how is anybody going to benefit from that? Right? The patient won't benefit from it, but also the researchers won't benefit from it. We have patients that have to go from one province to another just to be believed and to be diagnosed with long COVID. One of our other admins in Long COVID Canada literally moved from BC to Alberta. Part of the reason was because of the health issues she was going through. And she wasn't being believed by her doctors here in BC.
現時喺加拿大長新冠組織網絡平台，喺全國各地已經有患者超過3000人。Jonah 十分欣慰能夠為佢哋提供所需嘅資源同埋支持，但係同時睇到有越嚟越多嘅患者因為無法被接納同埋診斷，尋求佢哋幫助，佢認為好痛心。
We kind of, I think, fill in the gap of where federal authorities should be, as far as I'm concerned. There should be federal support systems in place, whether it's a toll-free number you can call because you just need somebody to talk to because you can't talk to anybody else. Whether it's even just quicker referrals. 不過喺訪問結束後 ，Jonah 表示佢已經離開咗 Long COVID Canada 呢一個組織。而2年過去 ，Jonah 仍然冇辦法回歸正常嘅生活同工作。治療期間亦都令佢好沮喪。但係佢已經學識參照醫生所建議嘅 resting and pacing 方法，休息同時間分配去進行調整。除咗身體負荷之外，令佢更痛苦嘅係醫生以及身邊嘅朋友對佢嘅不信任，一啲多年嘅好友唔相信佢嘅症狀。咁樣嘅經歷令到 Jonah 覺得政府同埋醫療系統係時候要作出積極嘅改變。佢希望有更多針對長期新冠後遺症患者嘅診所能夠滿足佢哋嘅需求。喺2020年，卑詩省成立新冠後跨學科臨床護理網絡。目的係為咗將研究人員以及長期新冠後遺症患者聚集一齊，通過研究、教育以及護理尋找治療方案。卑詩省目前一共有5間專門為長期新冠後遺症患者提供治療嘅診所。位於溫哥華市中心聖保祿醫院內嘅診所就係其中之一。Jane McKay 醫生作為新冠後跨學科臨床護理網絡省級醫療負責人，每日都面對同 Jonah 有相同情況嘅患者，分析佢哋嘅症狀。
And you'll hear the word brain fog used a lot, and that's really cognitive changes from their norm. And headaches, there'll be walking difficulties sometimes, dizziness. Their quality of life is lower, fatigue is high, as is shortness of breath. And the one thing that I think is very important for many to understand is there's also mental health consequence from the infection itself. And we have seen anxiety at up to 30% of our patients, as well as depression and a condition called post-traumatic stress disorder.
為分析患者嘅情況，深入研究同診斷，喺診所建立初期，醫生需要為每位患者進行一系列嘅檢測，例如 CT 掃描同埋心電圖等等。而入院標準就喺今年3月1號有所改變，已經無需對每一個患者進行繁複嘅檢測，簡易咗轉介以及診症嘅流程。
They will see a physician. The physician will do an history, determine symptoms, and an examination. And then after they're done, another follow-up visit will be arranged. So we have set visits at 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and 18 months.
跨學科臨床護理網絡醫療系統將各個領域嘅專業人士集合一齊，根據每個患者嘅情況進行針對性嘅研究同埋治療。
So I'll just start at the beginning of the journey. So a patient will come off the elevator here and will be directed to our post-COVID clinic unit clerk, who is right here. And this is our lovely unit clerk who greets our patients and helps navigate their clinic visit. And she does a lot of pre-work before they even come.
診所內部嘅房間安排確保患者嘅私隱，亦都俾醫生同病人睇症嘅時候，研究人員可以同時參與，幫助日後對呢一個醫療問題作進一步嘅分析。
The reason we have side-by-side rooms for one patient is so that the research assistant that does the research component can actually talk to the patient in a private area and discuss with them the research opportunities, and if they're interested, can also collect blood for what we call biobanking. So biobanking is saving blood for further research.
如果有患者冇辦法前去診所，醫生亦都可以通過視像以及電話嘅方式診症。而喺診症期間，如果患者有疑問，亦都係有資源可以俾佢哋進行詢問。
Before the next visit, a patient can go see their family doctor, and if the family doctor or nurse practitioner is not sure what to do, they can call a specialty line called RACE, Rapid Access to Clinical Expertise, that we have set up to provide advice to primary care practitioners and nurse practitioners on how best to help a patient with persistent COVID symptoms.
Jane McKay 醫生表示，診所將會好快展開治療性嘅試驗，為前例嘅患者提供機會參與使用藥物研究試驗，希望可以加快解決呢一個醫學問題。
What I can assure you is that very shortly we will be doing what we call interventional trials, which is medication trials, to see if we can make a difference. And that's really exciting that we can do that and hope that we can make a difference.
下一節返嚟，我哋就會聽一聽另一位深受新冠後遺症困擾嘅患者嘅經歷，以及專門研究新冠患者康復問題嘅醫生會提出邊一啲嘅建議，去幫助患者進行調節，從而減低長新冠嘅症狀。歡迎返嚟節目時間。早前嘅一項民意調查發現，超過70%嘅加拿大人認為最嚴重嘅新冠疫情已經過去。不過，對於一啲面對新冠長期後遺症嘅患者嚟講就算疫情過去咗，但係隨後帶嚟嘅傷害對佢哋嚟講卻係一直存在。
I use the word twilight, right? We're just sort of living half lives. I mean, I have half energy. I can do half what I used to. I can put in a half day, and then I have to rest. If I work a full day at something, I have to take the next 2 days off.
如果你諗下，如果係一個馬拉松賽跑嘅人，我有其中一個病人係有好幾個病人係咁嘅。佢係可以成日去跑馬拉松，而病完之後咧行一個 block 即係就咁行路都覺得喘氣。咁佢就會你可以諗到嘅，可能佢就會覺得好擔心、好憂慮，會唔會將來以後都係咁嘅咧？
I mean, long COVID again, it's going to be very hard to know what the solution is going to be medically other than time.
Steve McCauley 喺2020年2月開始出現新冠嘅症狀，但係由於疫情當時喺本國處於爆發初期，佢同醫生都唔認為病症同新冠病毒有關。
And I literally had to stop. I couldn't work. I couldn't stand anymore, and it was a very physical job that I had. So I was seeing my doctor. I went to the ER a few times because I was having such difficulty breathing. I had an uncontrollable cough. Right when I first got sick, we didn't think it was COVID because it was very early. And at that point, like, I hadn't traveled out of the country. I still had my sense of smell. I didn't have a fever. And those were the touchstones that were very important to them early on. So they were like, no, you're not a good candidate. You just have a bad bronchial infection or something.
接落嚟嘅2個月 ，Steve 嘅症狀加劇，肺部、胸部、心臟都劇痛，伴隨猛烈嘅咳嗽。佢嘅肋骨亦都發炎。咁同 Jonah 一樣，佢冇獲得核酸測試嘅機會。
It's very difficult for the earliest of the sufferers, like Jonah and myself. We fell into a strange gap because we were sick so early. It was not possible to get on-demand testing at that time. The only way you could get tested in February or March of 2020 was if you were hospitalized or if you were a frontline healthcare worker and you needed it for your job. So June of 2020 was when it became commonly available, and I got tested, but of course it had been months after my initial infection, so I came back negative. And then it was November of 2020 when the antibody testing became available, which I went and got straight away. But then at that point, it had been 10 months since my initial infection. So the antibody test also came back. So on paper, I have no proof I ever had COVID.
但係之後 ，Steve 嘅身體變得越嚟越虛弱，咁並且引發其他嚴重嘅健康危機。
It's been just over 2 years now for me, and I am still pretty much the same as I was in May of 2020. I still have chronic fatigue. I still have a chronic cough. My lungs are permanently damaged. I just talked to my respirologist yesterday. There's nodules throughout my lungs. I've got calcification of my lymph nodes, and those are just not going to go away. So that's now a lifelong thing for me. I suffer from atrial fibrillation, so that started after. I never had any issues with that ahead of time. So
為咗防止血液積聚喺心房，引發中風危及生命 ，Steve 迫不得已要接受心臟手術。佢話身體、心理及認知等多方面同時產生問題。咁所以佢現時只能夠完成過去一半嘅工作量。佢形容自己就好似只有半個生命嘅人。往年嘅5月至9月份 ，Steve 仍然能夠從事餐飲生意，但係佢嘅身體狀況以及疫情期間嘅限制措施，令佢好難繼續負荷全職工作。因此佢只好將工作量減半，而咁樣亦都直接影響到佢家庭收入。
Ends up being kind of a part-time schedule, so that's pretty much all I do is I work and then I sleep and then I work and then I sleep, which doesn't make my wife very happy, but you know, that's just a reality. And at least we get through the summer. I mean, my wife has also continued to work. She's a teacher. She's worked full time, and so of course that's a major part of our income. That's what's helped to keep us afloat. And I try desperately to do what I can to bring in income.
Steve 同 Jonah 同好多患者一樣，有一段時間覺得自己已經恢復體力，所以就急於回歸正常生活。咁同時面對財務負擔等壓力，佢哋都嘗試將工作量恢復到過去嘅水平，但係結果並唔理想，導致不適嘅症狀增加。因此佢哋都勸喻其他患者要根據身體狀況審慎咁分配體能。
That story we hear over and over again from people in our community. They feel financial pressures to go back to work, either from their family, their employer, or pressures they put on themselves. And they're like, okay, I feel kind of better. Maybe I'll go back part-time, or maybe I'll go back 3 days a week. And they go back and they try to live as they lived before or do what they did before, and they completely and utterly crash and burn. And they find themselves bedridden for 3 weeks and wondering what happened.
佢同 Jonah 都提及 pacing， 亦都係通過調節以及分配工作量去減低新冠後遺症帶嚟嘅慢性極度疲倦感。
If you go to the long COVID clinic, they will provide you with handouts that talk about chronic fatigue. They will talk about post-exertional malaise. And they definitely, both of those areas, they recommend pacing.
作為專門針對新冠患者康復進行研究嘅 Ken Cove， 加拿大新冠肺炎研究組織聯合首席研究員兼多倫多大學醫學院教授嘅張萬惠醫生，十分認同 Steve 同 Jonah 提及嘅 pacing 調節以及分配工作量嘅方法。
其實我哋講嗰啲能量咧，係要諗到係physical 㗎啦，即係你要體力嘅譬如上樓梯啊，或者係沖涼啊，或者係出去行啊，嗰啲嘢算係體能㗎啦。另外咧，其實係諗住情緒上嘅，即係我哋所謂 emotional 嘅。因為嗰啲都係需要用能量嘅。
除咗體能以及情緒方面，醫生表示患者對於自己嘅認知亦都要有所了解，例如需要了解自身嘅承受度，並且進行合理嘅規劃，保障有足夠嘅休息，防止因為因過度疲勞再次引發其他例如心跳加快同埋呼吸等問題。而對於有患者表示經歷喺患病初期不被醫生甚至身邊嘅親人所相信身體上嘅病症，張醫生就表示，佢對於患者自己描述嘅症狀都表示相信，因為研究發現通過一啲嘅醫療測試就能夠睇到患有後遺症嘅病人，佢哋嘅腦部同其他人有一啲唔同嘅反應。
我哋就做咗啲特別嘅 MRI scan， 咁就睇得到個腦咧係有影響嘅，即係有後遺症嘅病人咧，同埋普通人咧係唔一樣嘅，就發覺腦嘅叫做反應能力同埋速度咧係低啲嘅。
而佢亦都認同呢啲生理病症長期可能引發心理健康問題。佢發現一啲患者擔憂自己無法回歸正常健康狀況同生活等嘅壓力，導致抑鬱症、神經緊張等心理問題。而呢啲心理因素又會對佢哋嘅身體造成負面影響。因此，通常對新冠後遺症患者嘅治療係要同時兼顧生理同心理。至於點解有啲新冠患者可以自己康復，但係有部分嘅患者就出現新冠後遺症，張醫生就有以下嘅解釋。
其實我覺得同遺傳因子係有關嘅，同埋睇下以前有冇打過針啦。打過針嘅人咧，即係疫苗中咗2次或以上嘅咧，係會容易啲痊愈嘅。有啲人如果未，尤其是即係早啲嘅病人啦，即係2020年嗰班病人，最初根本係冇藥可以幫助佢康復嘅。
就好似2020年初，雖然 Jonah 同 Steve 出現新冠症狀，但當時嘅診斷過程限制較多，染疫之後亦都冇藥物進行治療，更加冇疫苗可以預防。咁樣就可能對康復速度造成影響，導致後遺症嘅發生。張醫生亦都指出，現時新冠後遺症仲喺研究初期，係一個好新嘅醫學問題。面對好多嘅挑戰，暫時未有完整嘅治療系統。至於有唔少患者，包括 Jonah 同 Steve 在內，都認為政府喺支援新冠後遺症患者方面嘅工作做得唔足夠。喺本台早前嘅專訪之中，卑詩省長賀錦亦都有作出回應。
We don't have a specific program today, but I know that Dr. Henry and Minister Dix are absolutely aware of the long haulers that are experiencing, and we're committed to making sure that we do continue to do the research, and we're aided by the international community as well, the World Health Organization and others, because it's not just happening here, it's happening in every corner of the world.
好啦，今集嘅節目時間差唔多啦。咁如果觀眾對我哋嘅節目有啲乜嘢意見嘅話，係好歡迎大家以電郵嘅方式同我哋聯絡㗎。我哋嘅電郵地址係 mag26@fairchildtv.com。如果觀眾咧想上網重溫翻今集嘅節目，亦都可以上到去我哋嘅網站3w.fairchildtv.com， 點擊節目重溫一欄就可以睇得翻㗎啦。下星期同樣時間再同大家見面，晚安。